everyone. I was trying to tell Lindsay that we were going to go at 1 minute. So we're going at 1 minute. Love to just give you a little bit of preview that we are going live. But welcome in, everyone. And whether you're watching on the replay or you're with us live, we try to come in most Wednesdays. I won't say every. In fact, I think we weren't on last week. Is that right, Lindsay?
We were last week. It was 2 weeks
two
ago
weeks
that
ago
we
we
had to
weren't with you,
miss.
but we try
Hmm.
to come in every Wednesday sometime between 10:30 and 11:30, somewhere before noon. We'll say we're pretty casual, and because it's about our real life, and sometimes real life is casual, so or unplanned or unscripted or all of those
Yes.
things. But we love when you join us. We love when you comment below. We know for many of you, you're catching the replay. We try to keep these 10 minutes or so as we come in and just have some real life conversation. And today, Linz, why don't you share with them kind of what we're going to talk about today?
Well, we thought it'd be great to have a conversation about our values. And the reason that we're kind of thinking about this, the podcast episode that came out today is about, we've shared recently our new partnership with One Life Maps. And a big part of that decision to join with them was, does this align with our values as an organization? Which also ties very closely to the values we hold for our lives because
Mhm.
it's all together, right? We don't have a separate self and our personal life and our work life. The values that we hold influence all of those spaces. And so we thought it'd be helpful to have a conversation today about, what do you value, both personally and in the work that you do, and how do those connect, and how your values can help shape your decisions, like a decision that we made recently to partner with One Life Maps. Our
Mhm.
values played a huge part in that decision for us.
It did. And um, probably let's start with just kind of even how do we figure that out? Like, what is one of the
Mhm.
ways that we could figure out? Because values is this word that's thrown around a lot.
Mhm.
But what are some ways we could figure out what our values are? You got any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a good thing to do can be to pay attention to what you're actually doing. Because I think sometimes we can say, I value this or I value that, but look at your schedule and your time. How do you actually spend your time? Like, for
Mhm.
example, you might say, I really value getting outdoors. You know that that's a good thing to do, that it's a healthy thing to do. But when you look at your schedule and how you actually spend your time, is that something that you do? So maybe that could be a good place to start, is to pay attention. How do you spend your time? Because that's going to show you a lot about what you actually value by how you spend your time.
And I think values many times are words that we're going to latch onto or become a part of, our being side of self. So this is a being side of self thing. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of times our values are something that um, has a word that, how do I want to say it, is more of an umbrella word. It's not as much of an action word. For
Hmm.
example, and that's why I was saying, how could I say this? Best way is to give an example. So for
Yeah.
me, one of our values in our business is to be present. So
Mm.
we value being present. And for me, that helps me remember that wherever I am is the most present place I need to be. That if I'm on this live with you, then I want to be present to hear. If I am coaching with a client, I want to be present there. If I'm with my husband, I want to be present there. I want to remind myself that I value the presence of others and that I value
Mm.
being present. So it's a more of an umbrella word. It's not an actionable word as to what I do during that time, but it's saying I value this type of way of showing up in the world. Another one that we have in our business is to bring joy. We want to have some fun, and joy isn't just fun, but we want the experience to be joyful and uplifting. And I want to be in relationships and communities that are uplifting and joyful. So we want to bring joy in the work that we do, have fun, not be so uptight. So those are a couple of examples. What for you is a value that you've discovered in your personal life?
Yeah, I really resonate with the presence one. I think that's one that I've been working on in myself a lot lately is how do I be present to myself, to God, and to others. I think especially as a mom, I think, with my kids, it's like you can think of all these things that you should do with them or that are important to do as a family. And most of the time, I feel like just being present in whatever moment we're in is something that I value and that I'm trying to live out, that I feel like I'm growing in. So that's one that comes to mind, for sure. Another value is um, creating space for God in my everyday life is something that I value and something that again, going back to looking at my schedule, if that's something I say I value, is that something that I am making time for, that I'm
Hmm.
not crowding every moment of my day, but that I'm creating space to slow down and take time to connect with God is another thing that I value.
So we have here at the Real Life Process in the work that we do, we have actually even a free way that you can go in and take a little bit of an assessment. There's
Mhm.
an assessment for everything. And we have a way that you can do that just to get you started. These aren't
Yeah.
the only words, like you heard Lindsay say a couple of things that are more like a phrase or whatever, but there is something helpful though about saying, these things are things that I value. And because of that, yeah, we say yes and no. Just like you said in the beginning, how did we decide that this other tool in business of One Life Maps would be something we would take? We were like, does it help people be present? Does it help people be real? Does it bring joy? Will it create impact? Those are our four values at the Real Life Process. And so, yes, it answered yes to all four of those. So we were very easily able to discern that it would
Mhm.
be, something that we would value. In our assessment, there's categories of values like I value beauty, I value discovery, I value pleasure. And you can like go, oh, but then you can get more specific on those words that might lead you to
Mhm.
discover other things that you would say about those categories. So there is a free little needs and values assessment that we have that might get you started. But I think the bigger why is they can become guiding, helping things as you look at your everyday life and go, wait, what I have on my calendar doesn't
Mhm.
align with what I say I value. Like you said, spending time daily with God. Like, how would that play
Yeah.
out then, in knowing that value and what you see on your calendar? How does that play out for you?
Yeah, because even on that needs and values assessment, my top need is spirituality, is my faith. That's the top thing, or my top value, I'm sorry, is the top thing that shows up. And so that's how I start my day because it's something that matters to me. I start my day. And depending on the day, it might be a longer time or it might just be a few minutes
Hmm.
of saying, I'm going to reflect on God's word. I'm going to listen, create some space for silence. And then weaving that throughout my day of saying, how do I pause in the middle of the day to reconnect with God? Because it's not something that we can just do once and then say, okay, check that off the list and now I can move on. But how am I creating space with that kind of throughout my day as well? But yeah, I feel like because it's something I value, I want to start my day and do that before anything else. Otherwise, it can get kind of lost.
Yeah, and for me, like one of the values in the assessment that we have, one of the categories is a catalyst. And
Mhm.
I used to, I'll be honest, kind of, either shame myself or kind of push that down that I really valued being a catalyst, making a difference. And the exact value that I have for that is impact. Like I want to make an impact. And that could come in all sorts of ways. But if the work that I'm doing throughout my weeks and months and, living into this year or over the years, that I don't feel that I'm making an impact, then I'm not living into a value that I believe God has put inside of me. And, one of
Mhm.
mine is also spirituality. And, how do I live that out through my faith? And so, you hear the word impact and create impact in one of our business values. So I have my own personal values, but then those are oftentimes going to carry over into whatever work you do. And I would kind of ask this question as we wrap up here today, Lindsay. And I don't know
Mhm.
if you, can name all of your values or, if you have four or five or whatever. Is there one in your values that really then leads you into kind of the work that you love to do in the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my top three are spirituality, teaching, and catalyst.
Woo!
And so, yeah. And so I think even with this work we're doing with One Life Maps, really connects with all of those for me. Because as I'm kind of taking the lead on the One Life Map side of things with Real Life Process, it's very connected to my faith and my own desire around
Mm-hmm.
God. There's been some teaching this morning. We spoke with our facilitators, and I was able to share with them kind of about the maps and how they
She
can
did an
use those in the work
excellent
that
job,
they
by the
do.
way.
Thank you. um, yeah, and it's even catalyzing them. It's like, okay, if we can talk about this and then they are able to take that into the work that they do, is fills that value for me of helping others take forward action as well. And so I feel like all of those tie very closely to the work that I do. And I think I always have to pay attention, because I think all of us have different gifts and skills and interests. And we have to say, okay, is the work that I'm doing lining up with what matters most to me and with what I value? Not that every single thing we do is going to light us up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's things in life that we just do because we have to do. But as we look at how we spend our time in the work that we do and how we show up in the world, do we see our values coming through in that?
I love that. And that's such a great example. And, you know, to just say, if I have 4 to 5 kind of key values, am I getting to live into those, 60 to 70% of the time in the
Mm-hmm.
life that I'm living? I'm not going to say the work that you're doing, in the life that you're
Mm-hmm.
living. Because another way that I create impact, and this is where we tie these value words into what we call areas of focus, the big rocks in our life. So I can make impact with my adult daughter. I can make impact in my marriage. I can make impact in volunteering in my community or at my church or whatever. So impact is not only lived out through, the profession that I have to look through that
Right.
lens and say, where is my spirituality showing up? My faith? Where is impact showing up? Where is teaching showing up? Which Lindsay and I align a lot on some of our values, but um, it's not just in the work we do. Because some of you might say, well, I'm in a job or a profession where I don't feel like, let's look and discover other places that you could live those out.
Yeah,
So here's a challenge that we
absolutely.
have for you. We'd love to have some conversation around this. We would encourage you, if you haven't done it, go download the free assessment and do the needs and values assessment, and then come back and share with us a couple of your values, what they are, and where you're living those out in your life. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to engage in conversation here in the chat underneath this live. And yeah, just pray for you, hear from you. If you're struggling, like, where could I see this? Ask us a question. We'd love to come back and engage with you and have that conversation. And if you haven't listened to the podcast, we'd love to invite you to listen to the podcast around how we even came to the decision of this new tool that we're bringing on, and how it aligns with the work that we already do. So, Linz, thanks for sharing with me today. And I forgot
Thanks,
that we had
Teresa.
so much that was the same in our
I
values
know.
to be reminded of and remember. So, have a great
Yes.
day, everyone. We'll try to be back next week with you for more here at Real Life Live. Whatever platform you're on, we'll be here with you. So, thanks, Linz.
Thanks, Teresa. See you, everybody.